Matt Birney or Dan Illman taking a look back at the Empire Classic on New York Bridge. Showcase day at Belmont Park this past Saturday afternoon for weekend wrap. To Twisted Tom for Chad Brown. He was going to be a heavy favorite coming into this spot. He eventually was the favorite, went off at even money, and he didn't disappoint as they break from the gate. You're going to notice there's not a lot of running going on behind the two pace setters. Ultimately, that's going to be Control Group, and Twisted Tom presses him throughout.
Twisted Tom shows some speed in here. And I know they're walking. There's no real speed in the race once the 2 Becker's Galaxy decides to take back and allow his uncoupled stablemate, the 4 Control Group, to control the pace. Javier senses this, and he sends Twisted Tom right after Control Group, and I think that's a key point in this race, because the horse that Twisted Tom arguably has to beat, Governor Malibu, is at the back of the pack and up against it from a pace standpoint.
A very rated pace on the front end. I know those two were at it neck and neck, but it's not as though this was anything going too crazy. Opening quarter 24 and 3/2 mile 48. You're going to see 3/4 eventually up in 12 and 1. But Control Group, an up-and-coming 3-year-old Twisted Tom, an up-and-coming 3-year-old. Twisted Tom had more experience and more as far as credentials are concerned. If you back Twisted Tom right here, you have to be loving life.
Especially the way Javier is going. In his prior race, the Albany, he came with a big wide move on the turn, and Javier's all over him 3 furlongs out as a short-priced favorite. Here, he's riding this horse like he is riding Secretariat. He's going to be looking around. He knows he's got Control Group whenever he wants. And then once he makes the front, he knows it takes a while for this horse's engine to get cooking. 1 mile and an eighth, you can argue, is actually going to be short for Twisted Tom when all's said and done. But he puts the boots to this field under a strong drive.
And look how comfortable the top 2 are right now. And look at everyone else. Everybody else is already off the bridle, and you brought up Governor Malibu. He's just now angled out about the 5 path and the red cap. He just has way too much ground to make up.
Makes you question, though, 3 through 9 in this race. They threw a 24-second third quarter and basically was able to extend over this field. Governor Malibu, you can argue, all right, maybe he was compromised. He is doing 0 running right now. This has been a very disappointing 4-year-old campaign for Governor Malibu, but the way Twisted Tom finished this race up, his distance, ability and affinity, the connections, this could be a really nice 4-year-old next year for longer distance races like the Pimlico Special and the Brooklyn.
Twisted Tom wins the Empire Classic, $4.10 on top. Control Group for Rudy Rodriguez, $7.60 to place. Can you dig it? $4.50 to show, $1 exact to $13.90, 50-cent try, $30.87. Twisted Tom is a 3-year-old. He is 7 of 10 lifetime. He's got over $680,000 in earnings for Chad. Javier, you see the rest of the connections. Creative Cause seems like he's having a bit of a nice second half to this 2017 year. And you see, obviously, out of a mare by Thunder Gulch. This is a horse, you brought it up. Distance is only going to be his friend. The big knock still, even with as well as he ran here, is he's not all that fast. He earns a 91, and I believe his career best buyer came in the Albany with a 92.
That is true. And usually after 10 starts, I would say, I'm not sure if we can find those extra points that are going to make him a true graded stakes horse. If that doesn't happen, he still is going to perhaps do very, very well in these New York bred races next year. But with a horse with his running style, and a horse that I think is just going to, as he continues to grow into his body and mature, I think there is potential for him to show further improvement on the buyer scale. Now, Chad is probably going to be very tempted to run this horse in the Discovery against Open. He's going to get 1 mile and an eighth, 2 turns at Aqueduct. I would put him away personally. I would want this horse to now grow up emotionally, physically, show up at 4, and we'll see where Chad puts him. I think, again, he'll tell you how he feels about the horse, where he puts him. If he puts him in a New York bred race, he might be like, we may not get that improvement. If all of a sudden he starts talking big cap in the middle of the year, I think we're on to something.
I know Control Group had won at 1 mile and an eighth, but can you make the case that this distance may be pushing it just a little bit?
It's pushing it a little bit, but I wouldn't hold it against him because for Twisted Tom, it's really right up his alley. So when Twisted Tom and Control Group, they turn to the stretch on level terms, Twisted Tom's going to win that battle each and every time. I know you liked Control Group in this race and it was a really good pick. It had to be disappointing knowing that Twisted Tom was the one breathing down your neck, because I think most handicappers thought Control Group's going to go to the front, he's going to be in control turning into the stretch, and Twisted Tom might have to make up 4 lengths. And in that situation, you're really using the speed to the tactical advantage, but Javier said no.
Well, and that's always one of those things. Whenever you see a horse that you know distance is going to be his friend as it continues on, and he already has the sort of tactical edge kind of just negated, where all of a sudden he's there, he's pressing the horse that you may have liked, or maybe the one that's supposed to have some sort of jump or some sort of edge. when he's right there and you're starting from the same point, you know that he's going to have the advantage when the distance is only going to be his friend.
And there was nothing else Irad can
No.
do. He got to the front, he backed down the pace. It just happened that Twisted Tom was able to keep pace. And I think that's a sign of a more mature Twisted Tom, and it's something to keep an eye on when he becomes 4 years old next year.
No disrespect to the third and fourth place finishers, Can You Dig It, Papa Shot. I think we need to talk about Governor Malibu, though, because now we're at a point where even when he was at his best, which you could argue was as a 3-year-old, he didn't like to win races. He liked to get close. There would always be some horses just find trouble, and that seemed like that was him as a 3-year-old. There's a part of me now, though, as a 4-year-old that thinks he just has not gone on with it.
No, he hasn't gone on with it at all, and I thought this was going to be the spot for him where if he wasn't going to beat Twisted Tom, he'd run second or third. The fact that he ran 5th in this race is really a sign of how far he has fallen. In the Belmont Stakes last year, you mentioned it, he had all kinds of trouble. It just seemed like he was a good trip away from a major graded stakes victory. I wonder what Clement does with him. I mean, there'll be graded stakes races at long distances against weaker horses over the winter at Aqueduct. You've got to think that he'll fit in those sort of races, but where's the upside now? I think if you're a Governor Malibu fan, you have to be a little bit concerned that you know, he's seen better days and he may not be able to get back to those better days.
Twisted Tom, it seems like his better days are just still ahead of him, because right now all he does is he goes out and he continues to improve. Maybe not from a speed figure standpoint right now, but all the things that you want to see from a racehorse as they get older, all of a sudden now the maturation is there. He's not some sort of one-run closer or confirmed anything like that. He can press paces throughout for Chad and Javier. Another good effort. He wins the Empire Classic with a 91 Beyer speed figure.